Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to episode 171 of Fine Music. This is an episode we've been waiting for a few days because, well, Murray will tell you why.
Okay, well, we are going to discuss Tom Verlaine in television. As I'm sure most of you know, Tom Verlaine passed away over the weekend, and it's been quite a month for rock stars dropping dead. To tell the truth, I think we just lost Barrett Strong, the guy who wrote the song "Money." He's today's one who passed today, but Tom Verlaine passed over the weekend, and personally, this one means a lot more to me than any of the other ones, even David Crosby or Jeff Beck. And I'm not going to, try to really compare Verlaine to Beck, but I will say that like Jeff Beck, Tom Verlaine played guitar unlike anyone else. No one else sounded like Tom Verlaine on the guitar.
And no one else sounded like his vocals either.
That's true. That's true. And I've had friends of mine refuse to listen to television because they couldn't stand his vocals. But that's, a matter of taste. There are certain bands I don't want to listen to because of the vocals. But I thought his vocals were also unique and fit the music. I honestly was convinced that television was the best band in the country before I even heard them.
Well, his voice kind of smacks of sincerity. If you have a voice like that and you're going to sing, you have to be pretty motivated.
Yeah,
and you have to be pretty. You have to have pretty thick skin. When it comes to criticism too. So, very admirable in that respect for sure.
Yeah. I remember reading about them in, I believe it was Cream magazine, but it might have been Circus. And I think the writer was a woman named Lisa Robinson, who was just going on and on about how great they were. And she convinced me, like I say, before I'd even heard them, that they at least were definitely worth hearing. And when I finally got my hands on a copy of the album, I was not disappointed. Their first album, Marquee Moon, is, well, these rankings are always shifting, but it's currently number 4 in my top whatever number of albums ever.
It brings up a Frank Zappa phrase when he was describing some of his own music, when he said it had no commercial potential.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
And it's so discordant. People who are real purists about melody and stuff like that, I could see how it would turn them off. But to me, it was interesting because it's rebellious.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was rebellious in 2 contexts. One, it was rebellious in the context of what popular music was, especially in 1976, 1977. But he got put in with the punks because television was one of the first bands to play CBGBs. And they, basically built the reputation playing CBGBs, but they were not a punk band.
No. And neither were the Talking Heads. They were also kind of categorized in that same category. And if there's any similarity, you could point to the unusual nature of the lead vocals in both of those bands, I think.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. And they both, especially Talking Heads early on, were
77, first album. Yeah.
Yeah, the first album is very minimalist, and in its own way, television was too. I mean, they were, bass guitar, 2 guitars, bass and drums. And they were a little more expansive just because the guitar work was so adventurous. And the 2 guitarists, Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd, just played off each other so well. But they were, there wasn't, I don't know, there's some of their songs had sort of complicated arrangements, especially when you got into their second album, Adventure. There was a lot more playing around with stuff, but they were almost a jazz band, really, when you get down to it. And then, as I have mentioned it to Don earlier, the song Marquee Moon is a 10-minute epic that just is so beautiful. That the local, it's funny, I was listening to the radio driving around today, And there's a station here that during the afternoon they hand over to high school students.
Oh, nice.
And they opened their show today with Marquee Moon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So and then after, I mean, television only lasted for about, I don't know, 4 years at best. They only put out the 2 albums. You mentioned Richard Hell. Richard Hell was originally a member of television.
Right.
And I'm not sure whether he got booted or whether he just wanted to do his own thing.
Let's see what it says here.
What about the solo stuff? You said he had solo albums as well.
Well, that's what I was getting to, is that television only put out 2 albums. They broke up at like the peak of what would have been their popularity, when they're just getting known, especially in the punk and new wave scenes, and then suddenly they're gone. I remember when someone told me that, because it was a time when I was going to a lot of concerts, and I was sure that they would come up soon and I would get to go see them, and they were like, nope, they broke up. They're done. But then Verlaine immediately started putting out solo albums, which were pretty much the same sort of songs he was writing for television. Kind of jazzy, but alternative rock, a lot of guitar. And then later in his career, and I don't have the names in front of me, but he started to put out some all instrumental albums too. That were very interesting stuff, and kind of mellow, kind of atmospheric, not, more, I don't know, I want to say new agey, but definitely more, I say more in the atmospheric instrumental than rocking songs. And then television did get back together a couple of times. They got together in the early 90s and put out a 3rd album that's just called Television, which is okay. It's got its moments. Doesn't rate up with their early stuff. And then I actually saw them on 2 different reunion tours in I don't know, one was like in the early 2000s and another one was just maybe 5 years ago. The first one was the original lineup, and it was a great show. Because they played, all their old material and the stuff that I'd wanted to hear 30 years ago, and I'm finally getting to hear it. The second one, they had a different guitar. That Tom Verlaine was there, but Richard Lloyd had quit, and they brought in someone else as the other guitarist who did a pretty good Richard Lloyd imitation, but it wasn't quite the same. And then, I don't know, in the middle of the show, they got into this like 20-minute song that was so repetitive, and it just was like on a loop, and it just coming back to the same, the same chorus and the same guitar figures, and just went on forever. And I was like, well, you guys are wasting a lot of my show time. But anyway, going back to, again, Tom Verlaine, an absolutely amazing guitarist, songwriter, and Marquee Moon, like I say, will forever be at least in my top 10 and generally my top 5 of what the greatest albums ever.
Tell me if you guys can hear this. Yes, no?
We heard something there.
Garbled.
Yeah.
You can share sounds through the computer. You know that.
You can hear that?
No.
No, okay. The microphone would have to be turned the other way, I guess.
Yeah.
But
if it's on your computer, you can go to the share thing, at the top.
It's on a different computer. It's on a different computer.
Oh, okay, never.
Yeah.
Okay.
That won't work.
Desktop, not the laptop.
Okay.
But okay, well, that's my attempt to pay tribute to Tom Verlaine, and we both, and Don, you really got to at least check out the song Marquee Moon.
Oh, right. I'm going to. Yeah. Oh, I caught some of those other bands, but
yeah.
I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Thank you for the pointing. That was 171 of Fine Music, people. Stay tuned for yet another episode.